Welcome, guys, to a very special edition of Born Offside. Kat joins me on the couch, which is always, of course, a special guest, but you're not the most special today.
And I'm okay with that.
On the couch, and you're okay with that because we are joined by Tass Evgeniou. Now, Tass, when I've gone to introduce you today, I thought, I don't know how I'm going to introduce you to everyone, right? I know, Tass, we actually had a question today on the pod. Everyone's been rating
I love
haircuts.
that you got a question about this.
I had a question today from a fan of the pod asking me where I get my haircut. I get my haircut at Theo's Barbershop, right?
So do I.
Now, that is where I know Tass from, because Tass comes in, we chat football, neither of us leave, it goes for hours. Today, we're not going to go for hours, but we're going to talk a little bit about Australian football, its history, and hopefully its bright future. Tass, thanks for joining us. Sydney Olympic fan, football encyclopedia, some would say. You brought the football Bible with you. Why would you say you're one of the top football personalities in Australia?
I'd say because I was just born into football.
Right.
I mean, football is everything. You know, my dad, he came here in 1960. From 1962, he started following Sydney Olympic. Actually, back then it was Pele.
All right.
Then it turned into Sydney Olympic. But since then, and it's just followed through. You know, football is in the blood.
Yeah.
It's European blood.
You know, I played 4 years of my youth football from 13 to 16s at Sydney Olympic. And then I left and I went and played Marconi. I played for some other clubs. But I spent a bit of time at that club and I saw how much it meant to the community, as they all do, those clubs. I wanted you to just give people insight. A lot of our audience here on Born Offside, we've got a lot of football fans, thousands of football fans. A lot of them are younger skewed. Some of these guys never saw the NSL. A lot of these guys don't remember the NSL, don't remember those clubs being at the height of Australian football. We know how important Sydney Olympic is to you, but just for those thousands of football fans around Australia who have this affinity for the member federation clubs, like your Olympics, your Marconis in Sydney, your South Melbournes, your Adelaide Cities, these massive clubs with so much history, why are they so important to those communities?
Well, you mentioned it before, off air. They're the foundation clubs.
Right.
These are the clubs that are ethnic background, of course. The ethnics back in the 50s and 60s would reduce these clubs.
Yeah.
Obviously, South Melbourne being a huge club in Melbourne, and then of course Sydney Olympic here in Sydney, and then of course the Croatians, the Italians, the Serbians, and so forth. For me, it's more the ethnic.
Right.
That brought football to Australia.
Right.
I mean, they only knew rugby league. They didn't really. They played football, Johnny Warrens, all those guys, but it more started to become big in Australia in the 60s. And that's when NSL was formed. And obviously it's the foundation to now the A-League.
Can I ask, what's your earliest football memory?
Earliest would be when I was about, I'd say, 12 years old. And that was at Wentworth Park, when Sydney Olympic played actually back then Sydney City, which was Sydney Hakawa.
They played at Wentworth Park, huh?
Yeah, Wentworth
Sydney Olympic
Park.
never have a home.
Yeah.
No. We are the gypsies.
Proper
of
gypsies of the league,
We are
eh?
the gypsy of the league. We travel. We travel. We go everywhere.
It's Belmore though these days.
At the
right?
moment, it's
Yeah,
Belmore.
okay.
Yes, it is. It's Belmore now. But yeah, back then it was at Wentworth Park, and I was 12 years old. I used to go with my dad all the time, so my dad always took me, and that was my memory, and that's when I fell in love with football. I just thought, gee, you know what? I like this sport. There's a lot of passion. The fans are passionate. They believe in their club. There's a lot of history and so forth. Yeah, it's really good.
You know what? I wanted to chat to you about, I guess, the history of Australian football, because you did mention that in the 50s and 60s, Olympic, I believe, 1958.
57.
57. Before Sydney United, huh? You got in there before Sydney United.
Right,
We
before.
did. Sydney United, 58. But 50s, a lot of these clubs came up. Football was around before that. It was blocked. And Simon Hill, actually, big commentator, introduced me to a book which was written about the name of Aussie Rules football, AFL, and how that was changed to be called football so that people would stop playing European football in a time of warfare and a lot of tension with ethnic communities. So they tried to position AFL as the Australian game, and if you're not playing that, you're un-Australian. That's a whole nother story. Do you think there is still an agenda, especially by mainstream media, against football?
There is.
Okay.
And I don't want to get too political, but I got to say that the NRL, for example, still holds, the most popular sport in Australia. I mean, you can just see it. When it kicks off, a month in advance, they're
The hype and
advertising it,
everything,
they're marketing it, they're promoting it. I mean, we've got a Women's World Cup
That's amazing.
in a matter of 3 months,
Yeah.
and I don't see anything promoted. I mean, this is a Women's World Cup. And it's huge.
Yeah.
So why aren't we not promoting it? Why isn't it on billboards? You go around, you don't see anything. All I see is the NRL or the AFL in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So, and I think the cricket, that's another one. So I suppose the tradition in Australia is that football always has this ethnic wog.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'll use that word.
No, of course not. Sheila's Wogs and Poofters was the book that was written,
by
right?
Johnny Warren.
Yeah.
And that's why. So we have that, that we're like foreigners.
Yeah.
When I was growing up in the 80s at school, we'd want to play football. I mean, they call it soccer. It's not soccer. It's football.
Yeah.
But, when we played it, it was always ethnic kids, with the Greek, the Italian, whatever. And the Aussies would always say, oh, look, why are you playing wog ball?
Yeah.
And that's how it was.
Yeah.
So we were known as the wog ball.
Yeah, right.
And then, the rugby league was known as the rugby league, and then obviously the cricket. So it was very hard in the 80s growing up to try and keep football alive in this country.
Yeah.
It's so true though, right? That for the period that you're talking about, I guess we're quite lucky to have grown up in the Johnny Warren, Les Murray era where we kind of saw like the likes of SBS and what they did for the world game. And we still can see that struggle with mainstream. I'm a big NRL fan, and whenever March comes around, I always have that struggle of what do I watch on a Saturday night? Yeah. I'm now torn between the fact that the NRL is so accessible and easy to watch, and then obviously my love of football and waking up at 2 a.m, it's things like that.
Yeah.
But it's a time, I guess, we can almost take for granted how we do have that access to the game.
And to the world leagues as well, yeah.
It was a lot harder to follow the game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the sponsorships, I've got to tell you.
Yeah.
You watch how big, NRL, AFL, they're big sponsorships.
And the TV rights.
The TV rights. Yeah. I mean, the A-League seems to be something that's, okay, we've got nothing else on, we'll put the A-League on. And, Fox Sports, obviously don't want, the A-League anymore.
It's a case of what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? Because if the numbers are there, no one wants to invest in it. But if you invest in it because maybe at a government level there's interest, then the numbers will be there. So it's a bit of chicken or egg with football. You spoke about the ethnic minorities and how much football meant and how these clubs gave them a platform. However, then you talk about how football's seen as a WOG game or an outsider game. How do we come over that? For a lot of people, the A-League was the answer because you get rid of the ethnicity attachment to clubs. So as a loyal Sydney Olympic fan, and of course you have great memories of the NSL, was the A-League the right move?
I think it was.
Okay.
Only because I believe that Sydney then wasn't divided.
Okay.
So then you had your Sydney people following Sydney FC.
And then we divided it in 2012.
Yeah. Before it was divided by 12 clubs.
Yeah.
You had the Croatians, you had the Greeks, the Italians, whatever. But, so I suppose it was a good reuniting thing.
Yeah.
It took the fact that, I'm Greek and I'll go for the Greek team, and I'm Italian, I'll go for the Italian team.
It's not a World Cup.
It's not a World Cup. Well, it's not. And I'll even tell you, a guy named, I think his name was something Hill. He actually took the ethnic thing out of the game.
Yeah.
He actually banned people from bringing in Greek flags, Croatian flags, Italian flags. He said, guys, we are in Australia. We're one nation. We've got clubs. And those clubs are Australian-based clubs.
Yeah.
And there shouldn't have to be nationalities.
Yeah.
And there shouldn't have to be these rivalries.
Yeah.
Like the Macedonians and the Greeks or whatever.
Yeah.
So he tried to take that out of it by saying, guys, let's we're in Australia. We're not in Greece or we're not in Italy. When you go to a game, you watch you support Sydney Olympic, and that's who you're supporting, not the Greece.
Not the Greece.
It's not a national team.
Yeah. It's a delicate balance, but it sounds like we might be moving towards it with the national second division. The A-League will continue to exist. Hopefully, all things going well. It's moved to Paramount and 10, and the APL has been established, and it seems like we have some stability and some more control over our game. Now it's paved the way for this national second division. This gets people very excited, Tass, because this is where we feel like the old school and the new school come together. My dad, same thing. My dad tells me stories of the glory days and Marconi and this and that and the players that came from it, Marconi versus Apia and blah, 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 blah. Now we finally feel like we're going to have that. 23 clubs were announced, and these are the final 23. And then they believe that this is going to be cut down to 14 or 16. We're talking Brunswick, Avondale, Bentley Greens, Heidelberg, Melbourne Knights, big club, South Melbourne, Sydney Olympic, Marconi, Adelaide City, South Hobart. Would be great to see Tasmania join mainstream football. And we've got Canberra, Croatia as well. Lots of teams from around Brisbane City, Gold Coast United form a A-League team, right? So it'll be an incredible league if this does get established. Are you excited for this? As a Sydney Olympic fan, does this breathe new life into your club?
Am, because I'll tell you why. Now, let's go back to Frank Lowy.
Right.
Now, Frank Lowy obviously was an NSL. I mean, he owned Sydney City.
Yep.
Hakawa, it was back then. And obviously, he folded NSL. It wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't. He wanted to make it a more lively, more glamour sort of competition. So he went into the A-League. But what he did, he forgot about the clubs.
Left
that
everyone
started.
behind.
Correct.
Okay.
Sydney Olympic, for example, South Melbourne, Sydney Croatia, Marconi. So he left all them behind. And I just think that the one thing he did wrong was he should have done it in a way where he should have given opportunities to these clubs that have been around since the 1960s to give them the window to come in and say, look, guys, you can all come in and then we'll do this, relegating system where your top 15 teams qualify, your others drop into Division 2.
Yeah.
But he never gave that opportunity. And so for me, A-League, it's okay.
Yeah.
But there's no competition.
Yeah.
Because it's the same teams every year.
Right.
No matter if you come last or if you come first,
Nothing happens.
you're
to
in
you.
there next year.
Yeah.
Relegation and promotion is so important.
Absolutely.
It is so important because it's a competition at the end of the day. And you should never feel like your position is confirmed
Yeah.
and solidified.
I do still think we're a long way away from that.
Yeah.
When you dig deeper into the A-League franchises and how they're made, and like to get a club owner to sign the fact that their franchise could be relegated,
Yeah.
what they have to do is establish this second division, prove that it makes money, and then you'll get the owners.
So there's
to
no
sign off.
fear.
There's
There's
no
obviously a fear because a team doesn't want to drop, but they
Yes.
need to know that they can survive in that
Exactly.
second league.
And in England, or a lot of top European leagues, when you get relegated with what they call a parachute payment as well. So they look after you on the way down,
Correct.
so that you have everything to come back up. Right. So this is what Australian football will.
It's important
hopefully have.
context as well, I think, for people to
Yes.
understand why it's not just an overnight decision.
Exactly. It's going to take a long time. What I'm excited for is that the A-League is expanding. And again, inside conversation, the A-League is expanding in the next 2 years. There are 2 new clubs.
Yeah,
coming
and in the women's too, exactly.
women's
Women's
as well.
team, yes.
Yeah.
Right. And in the men's, it looks like we're going to have a national second division and an A-League, which could mean 30 professional clubs in Australia.
Amazing.
All with youth academies, etc., etc., etc. So it's going to end up in 3 times the professional footballers than we had at the start of the A-League.
Unreal.
And that makes a big difference for everyone involved. Now,
Just
Tass.
one thing too, I'll just add to that.
Yeah.
That the way that football, and I call it football, the way the competition, they're doing it off the back of the NRL.
Yeah.
Right, where they go into what we call the champions or the major or the minor premiers, but then they go into this playoff. For me,
Doesn't
that's
belong in
rugby
football.
league. Doesn't
Yeah?
belong in football.
Okay.
No. Should be
But
like
then
the
it,
Premier
then
League.
it kind of works in the MLS in America, though.
It does. See, this is the thing. We tend to follow.
Okay.
We should be, for me, we should follow what England does.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe the APL is probably, the EPL
Yeah.
is probably the best league in the world. And I think their system is the best system. But like you said before, we need more clubs. We need more money behind it. We need more major sponsors
Yeah.
in order to survive. A lot of these clubs, even if they go into the second division next year, they need some money behind
It's
it.
a lot of money.
They're
man.
going to need a
asking
lot of
for
money.
They're asking for
If
massive.
they're going to have
budgets
to
pull this
travel
off.
to Melbourne
Yeah, it's a
every
lot.
second week or
Yeah.
travel to Adelaide,
Yeah.
and now you're talking Tasmania. I didn't even know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, they're in there.
You know,
Yeah. You know what we need?
What do we need?
Sheikh Mohammed bin Hammam. We need a Saudi Arabian sheikh with billions
That's
of
what we
dollars
do.
that wants to invest in Australian football.
There's
That's
got to
what we
be
need.
one that wants to.
Because we have everything.
they seem to splash their money in England.
Mate, we have everything that it takes. Beautiful country,
We do,
beautiful
we do,
landscape.
we
The
do.
clubs would be great. The clubs are already there.
I would
Everyone-
like to know if anyone's trying to make that happen.
Just get a guy with a lot of cash to come here.
Let's do it.
I don't mind if it's a Super League.
They're
Let's go
making-
rogue.
they're
You
making
know what I mean? We
offers
just need money,
on-
mate. That's all that we're missing. Everything else, the ideas are there. We just need the money to
the other
execute.
thing I think
Yeah.
is marquee players.
You
We
like
need-
the market.
absolutely. I mean, Del Piero.
But how do we
No,
compete?
but you're right though, because the marquee is also what encourages investment
Correct.
from overseas.
How are you
Correct.
going to compete on a marquee when you're now competing with the Saudi Pro League, which can go sign Cristiano Ronaldo?
Well, that's true.
You know
That's
what I mean?
true. That's where
And
the money
MLS
splashed. Yep.
And Chinese Super League, which now has died off a little bit. It's tough.
But I've got to say this, right? Del Piero,
Yeah.
when he was here for 2 years, I actually went out to dinner with him.
Yeah.
And I had a chat to him. He said the lifestyle in Australia
Yeah.
is fantastic.
Yeah.
He says you only play a weekend.
Yeah.
He says
You have the rest of the week
Yeah,
off.
you have the rest of the week off. You go to training 4 days a week. You know, you can
Life
play
is
on a
good.
Saturday night.
Yeah.
Sunday you can go to the beach.
Yeah.
He says
No
in
one
Europe,
bothers you.
Yeah, in Europe we never did any of
Yeah,
that. We
yeah.
played 8 months of the year.
Yeah.
Here you only play 4 or 5 months, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you rest.
It's a pretty good lifestyle.
So what you're saying is the camp we have this Tourism Australia
Correct.
campaign
Yes.
Correct.
that is targeted at the marquee player.
we sell the lifestyle.
We sell
set
the
the
lifestyle.
lifestyle.
Exactly.
They
You
love
can
our
say-
lifestyle.
You can sell it to the Saudis as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should.
Sell it to the Saudis.
Now, you know what? I love that he mentioned that he had dinner with Alessandro
Yeah,
Del
me
Piero.
too.
I
Because, Kat, who's the most famous person you've ever hung out with?
That's
she's
pretty
been
good.
flattering me. She's been
Oh, yeah,
flattering me.
I can
today.
see it. I can see
She's
it.
been flattering
She's
me
good.
today.
She's good.
She's very good. She's very good at
very
selling
good.
the dream.
She
Tass, you have hung out with a lot of
I
well-known
have.
people in the football
I have.
industry. Before we talk about some of the names, and you show us some of the things you brought in, guys, if you're listening to the pod and aren't jumping on the YouTube, make sure you jump on the YouTube because Tass has brought some awesome stuff.
Yeah,
in
you got to see
the
this
studio
stuff.
today
I
that
have.
you're going to have to see. Tass, how do you know everyone in football? Why?
Where
Why
did
do
it
you-
start?
Why are you like,
Okay.
oh, on the weekend I caught up with Maradona? You know what I mean? Why does that happen?
Okay, why that happens? I mean, I got to tell you, it's hanging out with the right people.
Okay.
And I did that from day dot.
Yeah.
So as a 10-year-old, I just made it a thing.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, I'd hang around.
Okay.
I always used to hang around.
Right.
Dad always used to say to me, "Come on, let's go, let's go." No, Dad, I want to see the players. I want to talk to the players. So it just started from there.
Okay.
And I suppose I was like a reporter.
Yeah.
I'd go up to them, ask them questions. Take photos, do this, do that, and then of course they started to know me. It got to a point where at a 15-year-old, I used to go out, holding the player's hand,
Yeah.
going out into the
Mascot,
field,
yeah.
as a mascot. And then, of course, going in the dressing rooms and hearing what, coaches were saying. I used to sit on the side, watch them. They used to tell me, "Be quiet, Tass, don't talk.
Yeah, yeah.
Just listen." So, okay, very hard for me to do, but I'll do
Yeah,
it.
I can imagine.
Yeah. But anyway, and so it started from that. And then, of course, I got very close to Johnny Warren. Now,
Okay.
Johnny Warren, to me, is Australian football.
Yeah.
For me, he's the icon of what this game's all about here in Australia. And the thing about him is Australian-born, but yet he had this ethnic thing in him. He loved football, And for me, we got on well.
He proves that you don't have to be
That's right.
an ethnic to
No.
get-
To
this
love
is
the
a- this is a
game and to
Absolutely,
feel
to love the
connected
game.
to it.
This is an Australian game,
Yeah.
as much as it's anyone else's game. But yeah, sorry.
And
Continue.
no, that's okay. And then you got, say, Johnny Warren, he used to say to me, he used to say, "Tass, I love your passion." And I suppose that's what happened. A lot of people they just say, "Tass, we love your passion.
Yeah.
We love this game."
Yeah,
And I do.
Yeah.
I love it.
yeah,
So for me, I embraced it that way. And then I started, with my skills of real estate, started to get contacts, and then I got really involved in football. I get invited to a lot of things. I go to functions. I go here. I go
Well, you know
there.
what, Kat? We were doing the show for SBS, and when I went in to do a live match, I'll go in. Who's sitting there? Tass from the barbershop,
I
hanging out with Bozza,
love it.
Foz. You were there for the World Cup
I
games
was,
as well.
yes. I got invited. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's
yes,
incredible.
Yes, I got
Did
invited to a
you
lot
did
of
you
those.
never want to work in it specifically?
I suppose I did.
Yeah.
There's always a
part
thing
of
there,
you,
a
yeah.
part of me that wants to be there. But I suppose real estate is my field,
Yeah.
and I've been doing it for 30 years. But football I think is more of a hobby,
Yeah.
and it's my
Maybe
hobby
better that way.
Yeah,
Maybe it
I
doesn't destroy your
agree
love
as
for it,
well.
you know?
I
I mean,
think there's something really nice about being so involved, but also having a career that was
absolutely.
a slight contrast from
Because
that.
your decisions come from passion, not from the dollar sign.
That's
as well.
exactly right.
Yeah.
It's passion.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, like yesterday, for example, my wife says, "Where are you going today?" I said, "I'm going to a game." She says, "Why are you going now at 11 o'clock? The game kicks off at 4:30." I said, "Oh, no, I've got to watch the 20s and then I've got to watch first grade."
I love
Right.
that.
So that's what I'm like.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I want to watch what's new.
Yeah.
I want to see these new kids coming, and I
Yeah.
love grassroots football.
Amazing.
And I think in Australia we probably have the most participating sport is football.
It is.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we lose it to rugby league.
Yeah.
We lose it to cricket. We lose it to other things, and we're not embracing it to keep it going. The Sutherland Shire, for example, I believe they've got the most registered players
In the country. Yeah.
in the country.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what is missing. We're not embracing it and saying to the boys and to the girls, that football in Australia is big,
Yeah.
and you can make a career out of it.
Yeah, definitely. And I always do tell people now from my point of view as well, you can make a career out of it. And I'm sure Kat can vouch for this as well in so many ways.
Yeah.
I always thought my career would be playing.
Yeah.
And then it didn't work out. And, you get a hip replacement, you do whatever. Everyone's got stories. Everyone's done busted knees. Or some people are just not good enough, of course. But then you find out that there's so many avenues in the world of football, whether it is to make it your career or to have incredible life experiences like you, Tass. Who's the most famous person you've ever hung out with?
Oh, look, Pele.
Yeah.
I mean, Pele for me.
When did you meet Pele?
Pele, I met Pele back in 1991 when
Right.
he did his Pele albums.
Okay.
He came out to launch them, and of course through Johnny Warren, because I knew Johnny Warren.
Okay.
He said, "Tass, do you want to meet him? Do you want to get the book signed?" I said, "Yes." So obviously I met him, and
You had to think about it.
incredible.
Yeah,
I
let
mean, the
me
guy's
think.
a gentleman.
Yeah.
I mean, now obviously he's in heaven, but the guy's an absolute gentleman. gave time to you. I mean, he's a.
Would you he spoke English well?
Yeah, look, his English was broken.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you talk to him, I mean, look, he asked me questions like, "What do you do for a living?"
Yeah.
I said, "I'm a real estate agent."
I think that alone says a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's that type. He's a people's person.
Yeah.
Maradona, on the other hand, different, completely different, arrogant.
Really?
Oh yeah. You couldn't get 5 words out of him.
Right.
He'd
But
look
is that
at
just
you.
the life that he lived, where like he had
How
this
was his
superstardom?
His English was no good at all.
Okay, that doesn't help, does it?
Yeah, so that barrier was
yeah,
hard.
that barrier.
But with Maradona, for example, his manager would tell me, when I met him, he said, just don't touch him. He doesn't like people touching him.
Fair enough.
So, when you take a photo, and I'm very touchy.
That's why I sat you
gotta
over
hold
there,
back.
cat over there.
Yeah,
That's
that's
I
why
sat
you
in the
stay
middle.
over there. Stay there, cat. But, I'm a very touchy person. As you can see, my hands are going everywhere.
yeah.
But, and I remember the manager, preparing us before he came downstairs from the hotel. He said, look, when you meet Maradona, when you take a photo with him, don't put your hand around his shoulder. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't do this. I said, shit, what do you do? Anyway, but, he's that type of person.
Yeah.
But the stories I heard, Maradona was quite touchy with the right person.
Well, that's right.
That's what I
That's
heard.
exactly right.
May he rest in peace. He's one of my favorite people to ever do anything because Maradona for me just encapsulates the superstar.
100%. 100%.
But if you could choose to have a night out with one of them, Maradona or Pele, I think I know you'd have a night out with.
I'd probably do. I'd say Pele.
Really?
I'd say Pele. Only because
I think it'd be a far more wholesome.
yeah,
You'd have a better
yeah,
conversation.
You would remember your night out with Maradona.
You know?
You know who had a great night out with Maradona, and I'm not going to tell the story because it's his story to tell. But we had a good chat about it. Robbie Slater.
Robbie Slater.
Robbie Slater had a
100%.
great night
What do you
out
mean?
with
He's got
Diego
his
Maradona.
shirt.
Yes, exactly.
He's got his shirt.
Exactly. Like,
And I was there in
Right. You were at that
1993.
game?
I was there. I was
Wow.
there.
Yeah.
I was near the tunnel,
Yeah.
and I saw it as he went back to the dressing room after the game. Paul Wade went up to him. You can read this in this book.
Yeah.
Paul Wade went up to him and said, "Can I have your shirt?" And he said, "No."
No, it's reserved
Maradona
for
said, "Yep."
him.
He said he went into the dress. I read the book.
Yeah.
So Robbie Slater's book. He went into the dressing room and he asked this red-headed guy,
Yeah.
"Can you tell him to come and see me?"
Amazing.
So obviously he reckons a manager of Argentina went in and said, "Who's Robbie Slater? Who's the redhead?" "Yeah, you."
Yeah.
"Maradona wants to see you." He said, "Me? Maradona wants to see me."
Yeah.
He said, "Yeah, Maradona wants to see you." So he went in there and said, "Here, take my shirt.
Amazing.
I think you're the greatest player
Incredible.
that I come up against."
Incredible.
Wow.
That's how Maradona
just
was.
so cool. I remember Robbie touching on the story slightly when
Yeah.
he came in here,
Yeah.
but I can't imagine.
Oh.
No, it'd be amazing.
Absolutely.
It'd be amazing. So you met the two kings of football.
I think so, yes.
You now in the modern generation, you got Lionel Messi, you got Cristiano Ronaldo.
I've met them.
You met them both?
I've met them.
So you met every king of football.
I've met everyone.
Okay,
Oh,
fantastic.
look,
How
there's
were
not
they?
a
How were
player.
Messi
Yeah,
and
how
Ronaldo?
were they?
Messi, look, I've got to tell you, Messi only now in the last couple of
When
years,
did
he was
you meet
very
Messi?
shy. Back in 2007
Where?
in Melbourne when they came here
Oh,
and
when
played.
Argentina came
Correct,
here.
when they played.
Of course,
against Australia.
And he had the mop.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
right.
he was
Yeah,
very
the
shy.
iconic
Yeah.
mop.
He wasn't the Messi that he is today.
Yeah.
You know, he was a very shy.
Mm.
You know, his head down. You know, and when I met him at the hotel, it was only 5 minutes, but when I met him there,
5
very
minutes
shy.
more than most people.
Yeah. You know, took a photo, got him to sign a couple of things, but you know, just a shy sort of person. Today, he's not like that.
It doesn't seem like
No,
it, does it?
he's more out there
And
now.
Cristiano Ronaldo when he was in Melbourne as well.
Yeah,
with Real Madrid?
2015. Yes.
Real Madrid.
Well, there's another story there.
Okay.
I also know Audi Australia, which is the car company.
Yes.
So I know the CEO
Right.
of Audi Australia. And when they announced that Real Madrid, I think it was Man City and Roma,
Yep.
were coming into Melbourne in 2015, I actually rang, you know, the CEO and I said, "Look, it's Tass." He said, "Tass, I knew you were going to call." I said, "You're sponsoring, you know, Real Madrid. You're sponsoring this competition. I want to meet Cristiano Ronaldo."
Yeah.
He said, "Tass,
Was
I'll
that,
make sure."
that was your second choice after Francesco Totti, though, surely?
Well, I met him as
Totti
well.
number one.
I
Totti
met him as
number
well.
one.
Can I tell you, but very aggressive. Italians are very aggressive.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll
You
go
don't
there.
have
In the
to
right
tell
way.
Claude
Sometimes
that.
in the right way, though.
Yeah,
Isn't that
well,
right?
yeah,
Hey?
I mean, I'm married to one, but
Ah, there you go. You know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
Sometimes in the right way.
There's a shotgun.
Yes.
There's a shotgun to your head. But anyway, that's all right. But the thing is, with Cristiano Ronaldo, so obviously they said, "Look, Tass, we'll fly you to Melbourne. We need you to do," and I've got this. I had, I think, 71,000 views on it. "We need you to do a promo,
Okay.
and what we want you to do." And I'm not. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a Real Madrid fan.
Okay.
I'm a Manchester United fan.
Right.
But they said, "Tass, we want you to be the #1 Real Madrid fan in Australia."
Okay.
So I said, "No problem, I can do it."
You can play
I
the part.
love
Can't
it.
you?
I love it.
So I played the part.
Right.
And, you know, they asked me, you know, Real Madrid this, Real Madrid that. And I said, "Yeah, Real Madrid's the best. Yeah, I followed them all my life, whatever." And then, of course, after that, they said, okay, Tass, we'd like you to, you come into the dressing room. So we went into the dressing room. We waited in the room. It was probably me and about 7 other people. And out come Cristiano Ronaldo.
Right.
Casually.
Yeah.
Just walking around. Went
Nice
up
guy?
to him, had a chat. Yeah. Very approachable.
I,
nice guy.
I feel like you could have a decent conversation with him.
I reckon they try to portray him in a certain way, but I reckon he's a very nice guy.
Yeah,
He's
I
very
agree.
good to children.
Yes.
Let me tell you that.
Yeah.
Because there was a couple of kids there and he spent a lot of time with them and he
That's
actually
nice.
went to their level, had a chat to them, signed whatever they wanted to sign. And he was just that type of
That's
guy.
lovely.
Brilliant.
He's
I
got
like
a good
hearing
nature
that.
about him.
Love that. And meeting all these people, doing all that, you never walk away without a piece of memorabilia or something.
Absolutely.
You've got a World Cup 2022 Qatar medal around your neck.
Yes, I do.
At the moment. Now just to
If you
clarify,
didn't
he
know,
hasn't-
he played for Argentina just recently.
just
No,
in
I
case you're wondering, he hasn't rolled Paredes on the plane home or something. It's an official replica, okay?
Yeah, it is a replica.
It looks fantastic. You've also brought a few things with you.
I did.
What have you? There was something special you had over there that I
look.
said I didn't want to see it until.
No. But I'll show you this.
You've got
I mean,
something
this
very
is very
special.
And it's, oops. There you go.
But don't drop it.
Oh, it doesn't matter. I'll just put
It's sealed though.
yeah. Now
The
this,
one that I want to see is sealed.
yeah,
This one.
here.
This
Now
one.
this is a Diego Maradona player edition.
Wow.
So it's a player edition. So he never wore it, but it's a player's
But it
edition.
was made for the players.
for the players.
Look at that. Can you,
And
how
in
do they play in that?
15
Look-
in
I was going to
15
say the
years,
same
looks
thing.
thick.
That material.
I've never taken it out of its packet. Never. It's never come out of
Where'd
its
you
packet.
get this from?
Look, I mean, there's ways that I get things.
Okay. I don't want to know.
So yeah, there's ways I get things. I have a lot of connections. Let me tell
Okay.
you. But these sort of things. I mean, it cost me probably 300 euro back then.
That's nothing.
How many years
now.
ago?
Oh, this would have been actually when the euro. I think even before actually, it might have even been when it was lira.
Lira.
I think it
About
was.
$1 billion lira, whatever.
Whatever.
That,
Oh, it was only. It was
What's
dollar for dollar.
behind
But,
here?
You know,
What's
it's got a
in
poster
there?
behind it. Yep, it comes with a poster. But
Wow.
it's
Incredible.
It's
That's
just
iconic.
a
With
limit.
the
Yeah,
Scudetto and the Coppa Italia
absolutely,
on the
absolutely.
jersey.
And then of
Brilliant
course
memories.
there's this one of Maradona.
Just so you guys know, Tass has over 400 jerseys in your collection.
Yep, I
Isn't
do.
that right?
Now
A lot
this
of them
one's
play
here. This is like a limited edition
Okay.
of Maradona.
Right.
And what it is, I'll quickly show you.
Yeah, go on.
So this
What
is
have you got?
this is a sign.
Signed.
Yeah, absolutely by Maradona
stop.
himself.
My goodness.
So you can have a look at that.
I'm trying not to touch it too much.
No, it's all right. Don't worry.
Really
You can
fingers.
touch it.
Look at that.
One thing
Signed
I
by
d-
the man Diego.
Yep,
Incredible.
the main man.
Wow.
You know, and that's his
Oh.
special edition. It's all right. It's his special edition.
I feel bad
So
for touching
I
it.
collect.
Brilliant.
I collect everything. I mean,
Yeah.
Maradona. I probably have over 30 shirts
Right.
of Maradona
Wow.
alone.
The kits are so cool as well, aren't they?
Yeah, they don't make jerseys
Wow.
like they do.
No. Yeah, it's true. That's why classic kits have become such a thing.
Absolutely.
Nowadays, everyone's
Absolutely.
You saw Kim Kardashian was wearing one. You know that? Kim
Maradona?
Kardashian was wearing a Roma
No, she was
no,
wearing
Roma.
a Roma jersey.
Roma.
and she went viral for it because it was so random to see.
And then I got this because
What
I'm a
else you
big
got?
Man United supporter. Now this is it's a replica
Of the Champions League final.
of Champions League final, signed by the whole team, or not all the team, but most of it.
Of that day?
Yes, of the
Solskjaer and
99.
stuff,
Yeah,
like-
yeah. The
yeah.
triple team.
You as in you bought this signed or you met them?
No. I met them when they were here in Sydney,
Wow.
so I got them all signed.
Look at that. What a day that was. The baby-faced assassin, Man United. Bayern
Absolutely.
Munich, They looked
Solskjaer.
down and out.
26th of May
Bad
in
weekend, by the way.
Barcelona.
7-0 against Liverpool.
Oh yeah.
We won't talk about that.
No,
We
let's
won't
not bring.
Let's
that
talk
up.
about the glory days, eh?
That's why you
Don't
look
bring
at
that up.
We look
Don't
at the
bring that up.
past, eh?
You've got.
Absolutely.
I've seen the articles on you, Tass. Over 400 items. I know you keep them in a very special place somewhere. Treasure chest underground, Jack Sparrow
do.
style.
I do.
What
That
is
is
the
so
greatest
cool.
jersey you own?
The
If you're
greatest-
someone, I'm sure you've been asked that before.
Okay, yeah, I have. I'd say Pele, Maradona would probably be the greatest. A Pele shirt. I've also got Franz Beckenbauer.
Okay.
Now I have a 1974
Right.
long sleeve.
Yeah.
Very rare to get long sleeve. Okay, so I've got a 19. Actually, I should have bought it
German?
again, but German,
German.
West German, West German.
That's.
West
I mean, that makes it even more interesting, right?
Yeah.
And I met him. He was only here for 24 hours.
Okay.
And this was back in 2005 when they were promoting the 2006 World Cup in Germany.
He was the organizer.
That's correct. And he flew in 24 hours.
Wow.
And within 24 hours, I met
Of course,
him.
you got him.
I got him in.
You
I
got him.
I got him.
That's fine.
You-
If I ever need to find a guy,
I
this is
know.
what I'm calling.
Yep.
Because what we need to remember too
Can you
is
can
that
you get me a meeting with Dua Lipa or something?
With who?
Dua Lipa?
Dua Lipa.
You know Dua Lipa.
she performed at the Champions League.
know,
I'm trying to
Oh,
find a
okay. You know
football
Joey.
connection for you there, Claude.
I'm trying to find a meeting. You know what I mean?
Meet and
Kendall
greet.
Jenner.
No. Look, let put it this way. When it comes to football, yes. I mean, people like my daughter says, "Oh, Dad, I want to meet some singers, you know, and pop stars. Not
That's not
interested.
my forte.
Not,
Not
not
your-
my
not
forte.
your
I'm
area.
not interested.
Yeah.
I really don't care.
How did
know,
you
they
do
look
it
fun.
before the internet? Like, did
Before
you just
the
have
internet, yeah.
everyone's numbers and
I
they
just
give
had
you a
numbers,
call?
yeah. I mean, look, Johnny Warren, I also had a very good contact in SBS. So this guy was a cameraman,
Right.
and he'd ring me and say, Tass, come down to
You get you a
so-and-so.
cheeky like production
Yep.
assistant thing.
For example, Pele, second time, was at the establishment.
It's Tuesday night, Latin night.
yeah.
Anyone
The
that lives
Stab.
in Sydney. Yep.
So I
Pele
went
at the
there.
Stab.
He was at the
He was
establishment.
at
Wow.
the establishment, but he was.
Now you go to the establishment, all you get is.
Was it? Did you say a Tuesday night?
Walla, baby,
No,
what
no,
are
it
you
wasn't
doing?
a Tuesday night.
That's
Saturday
Latin
all you
night.
get is Walla, baby, what are you doing? A bunch of just
Exactly.
finance, button-up shirts. Back then,
Well,
Pele
that's
used to go there.
Wow.
That's when it was good.
Well, Pele came there and he went upstairs
Yeah.
and Johnny Warren interviewed him. I actually sat and watched the whole interview.
Right.
That went live on the SBS afterwards.
Brilliant.
And, you know, so it's, you know, Johnny Warren would ring me and say, look, Tass, you know, Pele's coming. Do you want to meet him? I said, yeah, I do. Okay. So I'd go home, get my gear, get whatever I need to get, go over and see him. I've got a New York Cosmo shirt signed by him.
Awesome.
You know, so
Yeah.
that's the other thing.
Yeah.
So when I meet players, I know exactly their backgrounds. So I
Yeah.
know what clubs they played for. I don't just go and show up with a Manchester United shirt if you
course.
didn't play for Manchester
Yeah,
United, right?
you're ready.
So you're ready. And that's what they,
And they appreciate, yeah.
Correct.
I think also because you weren't going in there as media, you were going in there as somebody
fan.
just wanting to meet them,
That's right.
and
That's
there's no camera in their face. It's just like, I want to meet
Absolutely.
you, and
Absolutely.
that's
And
really
how it was,
special.
yeah.
Wow.
That's how it is.
Kat mentioned the time before internet, time before social media. These guys, you saw them for a couple minutes maybe on TV.
Yep.
Yeah.
You read about them in the papers.
Yes.
That's about it. Have we lost something in football? Because now we see these guys all the time. You see what they're having
That's
for
right.
dinner and for lunch. Have we lost something
Yeah.
about these superstars?
Well, if you remember World Soccer,
yeah.
right, was a program
Yeah.
on Saturday at 5:30.
Right.
Right, 5:30 to 6:30. I can remember every kid,
Yeah.
and I was a kid too then. I can remember every kid running home,
Yeah.
ready to watch.
Yeah.
You know, Les Murray, Johnny Warren. So that was probably the only thing we had
Yeah.
to, you know, get in touch with the world, to feel connected to the footballers.
Yeah.
And I suppose that was the way I started building up,
Yeah.
you know, my knowledge about the footballers. So, yeah, back then it was players like Maradona, it was players like, you know, Francesco Totti,
Yeah.
you know, all those sort of guys. But, yeah, that's how it was.
And now you're getting sex tapes and malakia like that. Huh? No good. No good. This is the problem with the modern day and age.
I don't know what you watch, but I
This,
don't
no,
watch
I'm
that
just
sort of
saying, the
stuff.
footballers, I got to.
The world soccer show's changed a little.
I need to be
It
across
has.
everything
It has.
football, okay? And that means I need to know everything about these
Everything
players.
football.
Unfortunately,
Correct.
it takes me
Correct.
down dark holes in Reddit as well.
Correct.
You don't want to go there. Tass, no, amazing stories. And what's next for you? You've collected, again, all these amazing pieces of memorabilia. You are considered one of the biggest football fans in Australia. I think I've good to see plenty of articles written about you, and you've popped up on things like SBS and stuff before. Now you're here on the Ball and Offside podcast. You still probably got so much more that you want to give to football. How do you continue to give to football in the next few years?
It's a good question. I mean, look, for me, you know, people say, when are you going to stop collecting? I don't know. I said, I don't know. I just collect. People say, when are you going to sell all your collection? I mean,
What's the plan with everything?
yeah.
What are you going to do?
I don't
Open
know.
A museum?
I have
You'll
no
probably
idea.
Open a museum.
Well, I've been approached
Right.
to open not open a museum, but put my
contribute to
memorabilia
one.
Yeah.
to the museum. I suppose I just don't want to let it go.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to let it go yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, people say you should be showing this to the world, and I just don't want to.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I
You-
show a few things, but
You don't owe anyone anything.
No, I don't.
You,
No,
you've
it's all
gone
me.
to all of this
All me.
effort to
Yeah,
collect.
absolutely.
Do with
I mean,
it what you
this
will.
is going, you know, since 12 years old. I mean, my first Italian, well, it was an Italian jersey, was when they won the World Cup in 1982.
Right.
I made a mission, and back then you had
Rossi or just the Paolo Rossi?
no,
or
no, just the generic
the
one.
generic one.
You know, and I made a mission, and back then you had the World Soccer magazine. I used to collect that, and I've got hundreds of those
That's
magazines.
so cool.
And you know, there was a little coupon in the back, and you had to fill it out.
Right.
Go to the post office. I know you guys don't, you know, these days
Yeah.
everything you buy online.
That's
you go-
why it's
There's
even
before
more.
QR codes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Before
no QR
that,
codes in the
Go
magazine.
put your little coupon in, change your money into what they used to call a money order.
Right.
So you not like a check.
Yeah,
but it's not
yeah.
a check; it's a money order, and then send it through. It took 3 months before
Right.
I got my jersey.
Right.
So you know, these are the sort of things I did.
That's
you know,
incredible.
and then it started from there. You know, I started collecting players that I liked, teams that I liked, World Cup teams. You know, all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Amazing.
Do your
Absolutely.
kids realize how important this collection
Did
is?
you pass on this passion?
Well, Alexander, my son,
Yeah.
he's a Man United supporter.
Okay, unlucky.
Yeah, but yeah, I suppose he hasn't got the passion that I have.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, the drive that I have, And it does. There's been stages in my life where I've been upset or I've been a little bit down. Football lifts me up again.
Yeah.
You know, even yesterday I go there. I feel good.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere where I want to be.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how you feel. But the passion.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
You know, if you gotta be passionate about what you do.
Of course.
And that's one thing I do. I'm always passionate.
That's really
Love that.
that's really inspiring, honestly.
And I did say that there's a younger audience that listens to this pod, and I'm sure that they could take those words. If there's anything you take out of it, it's anything you do in life. Be passionate about it, and you will succeed.
Absolutely.
How do you go with a ball at your feet?
Not too bad. Wasn't that good, right? So
No,
that's why I chose to be a fan.
Okay. Did you ever have a kickabout with these guys, Johnny Warren and that?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I mean, I had a kickabout with even Cristiano Ronaldo. We went
Yeah.
out at the MCG. There was nearly 19,000 people there,
Right.
you know, just
The
watching
training
him
session?
train session.
Yeah.
And they said, Tass, why don't you come out and have a kickabout? I said, with who? He said, with Cristiano Ronaldo. So there we are, kicking.
big
it
pressure
around.
moment
I'd
for you,
buckle.
Tass.
So,
I'd absolutely
he
buckle.
was just
My knees
passing the
would not
ball.
work.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was just, you know. And that's the thing, you know, that for me, it wasn't about being a footballer. I knew that I wasn't good enough to be a footballer.
Yeah.
So then I thought, well, what other avenue can I use to be the passion,
Professional
to still have the passion,
fan.
to be,
Yeah.
you know, into the game and to be connected with the game. And I thought being a fan
Yeah.
was probably the best thing I could do.
Amazing.
And a lot of people, and I don't say this in any way, but a lot of people do think I am the number one fan in Australia.
Yeah.
When
No,
it
I
comes
got
to
no doubt.
football.
I got no doubt.
I actually, there's all the evidence today for me proves that I have a lot to do in the fan space
Yes.
to compete with
Yeah,
that
yeah.
level of devotion you have
You
to the
convert-
game.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
And I think it's beautiful that, you know, you are Greek heritage, but
Yes.
and you said it off air before, you know, that you're born in Australia and that you have a passion around the way Australians feel connected to the game. And I think that's a really beautiful thing because we might all have different backgrounds, but at the end of the day, you know, Claudes and I are both born in Australia. So,
Yeah,
you know, you have that connection
Yeah.
Right.
regardless.
Absolutely.
We are all connected
Yeah.
through football. We all have big dreams for football in Australia, and
We do.
people sometimes say things about how we are a first world country and we're so good at other sports and Olympics and we compete in everything. We should have the ambition to maybe win a World Cup one day. Why not?
Why
know?
not?
We have a Women's World Cup on home soil. It's going to be amazing, and everyone's going to be talking football for a whole month and hopefully beyond. It's great things for you, Tass. When I say what's your ultimate dream for Australian football? It can be in 10 years, 20 years, whatever. What do you, when you go to sleep at night, man, you think about the best days still to come for Australian football? What do you see?
What
does it look like?
Well, okay, what does it look like? I think we need to host it. I believe. I mean, obviously we missed out on 2022, but I believe we should host it. That's the first thing.
Okay.
Winning it, I don't think we can win it.
Ever?
Not yet. Well, not ever.
Okay.
Not in my lifetime. Anyway.
Like
Maybe
we're
yours.
generations
Okay.
away from it.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is when Craig Foster, for example, he mentioned this in the last World Cup, not like the one 2022, 2018.
The Russian one.
He said it's great that now we can qualify for the World Cup. So we now know how to qualify. We're getting there.
Yeah.
The problem is now is what do we do when we get to the World Cup? And obviously we're coming up against some big teams like Argentina, like this and that. So we now need to go to the next level of not just now qualifying. We know how to qualify. We now need to know how to compete. And what do we do when we get to a World Cup? And I think, look, Graham Arnold, I believe he's done a great job.
Yeah,
You know,
squad,
with the
yeah.
team that he had,
Yeah.
COVID, all that sort of stuff. So, you know, where do I see football in Australia? I believe one day we will become a big nation in football, but we do need sponsors.
Yeah.
We need money. We need all that. You know, you can't just, I suppose you can't have a sport and try and make it big if it's not got
Right.
the backing.
Right,
So
right.
that's how
And
I
it's
feel.
played enough at grassroots level. So
It
I
is.
guess if kids don't have to pay $3,000-$4,000 a year to play, at that
Correct.
point you're getting more players, more passion, more balls getting kicked every day.
Absolutely.
At a domestic level, where do you see Australian football in an ideal world? We have A-League clubs, we have Federation member clubs, we have only one professional league at the moment. But let's say in 20, 30 years' time, what do you see? Packed stadiums, how many leagues? What do you see? Olympic up against Western Sydney Wanderers, is that what you see?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually think that's going to come earlier than that.
Okay.
So I think it's going to come earlier. But again, it needs money backing. It needs promotion. It needs all that sort of stuff. Like I said, I bring this back. Well, you know, a World Cup, a Women's World Cup is only months away.
Yeah.
And if you go out into the streets and ask them, do you know there's a Women's World
There's
Cup?
people that
They
don't know.
probably wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah.
And that upsets me.
Yeah.
Because I think we're happy to promote the Olympics, which is great, but we're happy to promote the Cricket World Cup, but yet, or the Rugby League or Rugby Union World Cup, but, you know, a World Cup.
Yeah, it's massive. It's the biggest. It's the biggest thing. It's
I
the biggest
think
thing.
a lot of people like myself agree with you wholeheartedly that there's a lot of disappointment around the lack of hype. But I think that's, that's our responsibility, right? Like if the mainstream broadcasters aren't going to do it, then Born Offside and everything
Anyone
else
that can
that we
hype it up.
work on, that's where we hype
And
it
that
up.
is the beauty of the modern day. We spoke about the problems with social media and the fact that everything's so accessible. The beauty, however, is that anyone can pick up a phone and be a media outlet. Right, and any fan can create their own page and hit thousands, millions of views and talk football, and that's what's good about what we're all doing. And you said what we are missing, we're missing money, and they laughed at me. I had an idea. You heard of OnlyFans? Have you heard of OnlyFans?
I haven't.
You haven't heard of OnlyFans? Okay, it's because your wife might be listening. That's why you say you haven't. All right, I said to the guys, hey, if I've got to do Born Offside podcast on OnlyFans completely nude to raise money for the game, I'll do it. Isn't that right, Kat?
Yeah. That's the episode where I'm sick.
But here's
I'm happy to do it. We need money.
Here's
Investment.
another thing, right? And I got to say, I'm a typical male. Women football for me before the Olympics, the 2000 Olympics.
Yeah.
I thought, nah, women can't play football.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, I've changed my mind.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And I'll tell you when
Completely.
it started. 2000, when the Olympics were on, in order to get men's games, you had to get a women's game,
Okay.
a ladies' game, right?
So they were like double headers, right?
Yeah. So I went out to try and get the tickets, and what I got back, like a valid or whatever.
Yeah, it's
they
kind
call
of like
it.
the raffles with it.
That's
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And then you see what you get. Anyway,
yeah,
I ended up getting a men's game and a women's game.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought I'll take my dad. Didn't tell him anything because I knew he didn't want to watch women's football. Right? So, typical male.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I go there. We're at the Sydney Football Stadium. We're sitting there, and the women's game's on first, the ladies' game. Anyway, about 10, 15 minutes in, my dad looks at me and says, geez, you know all these guys, why do they all wear long hair now? You know? I said, Dad. I said,
That's a good sign, though. You're 15 minutes in and he was enjoying it.
he was loving it.
Just didn't like long hair.
And I said, Dad, they're women.
Yeah.
He said, you're kidding me.
Yeah.
He said, how are they chesting the ball? He
Yeah.
says, with their
Yeah.
breast, how do they do it?
Yeah.
I said, Dad, that's women that are playing. He
Yeah.
said, wow, they're pretty good. And I suppose from there,
Yeah.
I started thinking, women can play football. And today, look at where they are.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Unbelievable.
It's exponential.
Anyone who doesn't give the women's game a chance hasn't sat through a WSL
Absolutely.
game.
Yeah,
like hasn't seen the
absolutely.
action that comes out of
the
those
action is
games.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, Sam Kerr, how good is she?
Amazing.
She's
Scored
amazing.
again this weekend. It's
Absolutely.
incredible. And I like hearing those stories because, again, we've grown up in a bit of a different generation, but even when I talk to my dad,
Yeah.
and he talks about that because he was similar. I remember like women's football would be a little bit on ABC once upon a time, and he'd be like, oh, I'm not going to watch this, And then when it really, he got around to it come the 2010s, but the 2019 World Cup, and it was on Optus, and it was so accessible, and there were 3-minute highlights, 9-minute highlights. I'd come home, my dad's watching mini match of a game, Women's World Cup, and he's converted, and now he's so excited for the Women's World Cup.
I
and
love
saw
that.
it.
That's awesome.
And that's a generation much older. There's no excuse for the younger guys, a lot of the guys listening to this pod, to be buzzing. Guys, girls, doesn't matter for this World Cup because it is a World Cup. Men's, women's, doesn't matter. It's a World Cup
It's
in
a World
Australia.
Cup in Australia.
In Australia.
That's huge.
We need to get
That's
excited.
huge.
It's
We need to
huge.
get excited.
Amazing.
I believe.
Amazing.
Yep.
And I know I can see producer Shab sweating behind the camera because I promised him half an hour. We've gone over, but it doesn't matter because it's been absolute pure gold. Tass, mate,
Thank you.
I could chat to you for days, mate. Thanks so
Absolutely.
much for coming on the Born
It's
Offside
been
Thank you very
awesome.
much. Thank you.
Thank you so
and
much.
sharing a piece of this incredible collection, mate.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Kat, thank you as always.
Thanks.
Thanks to everyone listening from home. If you haven't subscribed to the pod, make sure you do that now. Follow us on all socials so you don't miss any of the episodes and the awesome special guests like our man Tass. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.